Maplewood Planning Commission to order on Tuesday, May 19th, 2020. Roll call.
Alan Ige present. Tushar Desai present.
Lou Yang present.
John Eads present.
Paul Arbuckle present. We're missing a couple guys. Fred and
Mr. Chair and Commission, we have a open seat, so you're just missing Fred tonight.
Okay. Approval of the agenda. Any corrections or additions?
Chair and Commission staff does not have any corrections or amendments to the agenda as presented.
I need a motion.
Move to approve it as presented.
There's been a motion by Deshar.
Second.
Was that second by Lou?
Second by Lou. Yep.
Second by Lou. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hearing all ayes, passed. Approval of the minutes. Any corrections or additions?
Chair and Commission staff does not have any corrections to the amendment minutes as presented.
I see none. Need a motion.
Move to approve the minutes as presented.
It's been a motion by Deshar,
Second by John Eads.
second by John. All those in favor? Aye. Hearing all ayes, passed. Number E, public hearing. Maplewood Elementary School, 2410 Holloway Avenue East. A conditional use permit resolution. Staff?
Thank you, Chair and Commission. I am going to share my screen here and bring up a presentation. I'm assuming you're seeing a slide here. Is that correct? Can everyone see the slides that I've put up?
Yes.
Okay. So as Mr. Chair mentioned, we're looking at a new elementary school building that's being proposed at the site of the existing Maplewood Middle School at 2410 Holloway Avenue. The phasing of this project would be that the new elementary school would be constructed and completed, and then at that point, the middle school would be demolished, and that footprint area would be restored with athletic fields. As with all recent 622 school district projects, the site plan has really been driven by separating bus traffic from parent traffic, and you'll see that reflected in the site plan you're reviewing tonight. To move forward, the applicant needs city approval of a conditional use permit, which is what this group is reviewing tonight, and then design review, which is what the Community Design Review Board looked at their meeting earlier this evening. All approvals have to be finalized by the City Council, and this is tentatively scheduled to go before the Council at their first meeting in June. The future land use plan, the 2040 comprehensive plan, guides this property as public and institutional, as all schools are designated in our comp plan. The zoning of the site happens to be single dwelling. Schools are allowed in any zoning district in the city with an approved conditional use permit. This site actually does not have a conditional use permit because the middle school predates this requirement. So this project will bring the site into compliance with current code conditions. School buildings must meet all site design requirements, meaning setbacks and so forth, as any other building in the city. The new school is proposed to be just under 113,000 square feet and serve approximately 800 students. The existing middle school on site is just over 113,000 square feet in size and serves 725 students. So slightly smaller school being located on the site with slightly more enrollment. As I mentioned earlier, the middle school would be removed and replaced with athletic fields. If you had a chance to review the report, the city received many comments and feedback on the fact that the buses would travel the length of the site to access Lakewood Drive. As you can see, this is where the bus access would be on the southwest corner. Some concerns with the existing conditions of Lakewood Drive and with bus traffic extending further into the neighborhood. The city engineer did take those comments into consideration as he did his assessment on these plans and made his recommendations. He did determine that the road, as any city road in Maplewood, can withstand the traffic of buses, and that Lakewood Drive is actually in the city's 10-year plan for replacement. So consideration came up in the last meeting of making sure that this project is complete before the city would do any restoration or repair of this road or rebuild of the road, given that there could be some construction traffic to build a new school and not wanting to have the potential of tearing up a new road. So that there was concern from the board to make sure that this project is completed before the city would anticipate or entertain reconstructing Lakewood Drive. Also, there were some comments about parking on street. The existing middle school contains a swimming pool which hosts many events throughout the school year. And also, being a middle school, there's often many after-school events. With the conversion of the site from a middle school to an elementary school, and there will not be a swimming pool on site anymore, the district doesn't anticipate a reduction of on-street parking demands, and the site essentially being quieter off hours when school is not in session. I'll go over design review so you get a sense of how the project is going to be constructed on the site. The new school, the elementary school, the footprint can be seen here, would be located on the south half of the site. Parents would access from an existing drive on Holloway Avenue, and they would come down this south on this drive to enter the drop-off pickup lane, and then there's parking just to the north of that lane. Again, the bus access would come off Lakewood, so again, separating that bus and parent traffic, and then a playground is proposed to be south of the school building and the bus parking area. The height of the building itself would be primarily 30 feet, with the gym bumping up to 33 feet, and then a center part of the building, which you can see right here, would rise up to 48 feet. The building would be constructed with a tan field brick and be accented with a darker colored brick, metal panels, and precast panels. Looking at the parking and landscaping and lighting elements to this site plan, the project is meeting parking requirements. This elementary school would have similar parking counts as Carver Elementary, which I only bring that up because that was the last elementary school that was going under a major renovation that this group recently reviewed. The landscaping plan, staff mentioned that it's minimal as to what is submitted, and the existing site is fairly minimal as well. And the CDRB earlier tonight did talk about staff's requirement is adding additional screening to the east and south for properties in line with the new building and parking lot. The design board added conditions requiring additional, if you can see my cursor, additional screening elements on this side of the building that would help screen the loading dock and other, like the chillers located on the west side of the school, and that would help screen that from the properties on the west side of Lakewood. The photometric plan that was submitted, staff believes that is meeting ordinance requirements. Of the property lines were not included on that exhibit, so we just need that resubmitted to confirm that it is meeting ordinance. To quickly go over process, with all land use projects in Maplewood, a neighborhood survey and a public hearing notice were each mailed out to properties within 500 feet of this project site. In this case, that's 172 properties. We received 10 responses, and all 10 were detailed in your staff report. In the last week, we actually received one more response that did not make it. It was after we already sent out the report, but we will have it for the council. And that comment was with some concerns about the grading to the east of the site from a single-family home that's in North St. Paul, but that abuts the site on the east side. And so our city engineer has done a preliminary assessment, is not concerned that there are going to be grading concerns and stormwater runoff impacts on that home, but we will make sure that it's fully vetted before we go to the city council. An additional step we took, given that we moved to electronic reviews and meetings, we posted a form to the city's project site and giving just another option for people to submit comments directly to the city for consideration of this project. This presentation was pre-recorded, obviously not now when I'm saying it's pre-recorded, but we pre-recorded a presentation of this project and posted it to the project page and to the city's YouTube channel. Again, affording residents and interested parties to review the project before the meeting tonight. You'll hold a public hearing in just a few minutes on this project where if anyone is interested in participating and adding comments, they will have the opportunity to do so directly to the Planning Commission. And with that, staff is recommending approval of the conditional use permit resolution that is included with your staff report. That is attachment number 1 to your staff report, and that can be found on page 12 of 66. I know we have representatives from the applicant online on this call that can answer questions, as can staff. So with that, I'll turn it back to Mr. Chair.
Well, most of the concerns are on Lakewood that have issues with the project then, right? Is that what I understand with the comments here?
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, if you could say that one time, you kind of faded in and out.
Most of the issues are with the Lakewood Drive that people are concerned about, that road there.
Mr. Chair, that's correct. That's staff's assessment, either via the condition of the road itself or concerns about parking.
Okay. Now the elementary, what's happening to the middle school that's there? Are they going to move everyone over to John Glenn then, or what's happening to the students?
Chair and Commission, I would, I know we have representatives from the school district itself that can better answer that in full view, so I'll hand it off to Randy Anderson.
Okay.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, so what's basically been happening, we ran a referendum, a successful referendum here a year ago, May, and our basic comp plan is to consolidate to 2 middle schools. So ultimately, we would convert Skyview Community School into a 6-8 campus, and then we're remodeling John Glenn at the same time. So technically right now we're in phase 2, which is the Carver remodel. We're making that bigger, as you're aware of. And then John Glenn, we're also remodeling that and we're making that bigger, adding a new swimming pool. That's phase 2. Phase 3 is this school on Maplewood. When we looked at where we could put schools, I got to remember that in the 50s and 60s, our elementary schools were put on, about 8 or 9 acres of property. They were, kids walked to school. They didn't bus them. And then of course, now it's like, you almost need 15 to 20 acres to put a new elementary school for a district our size. So we decided then to consolidate elementary schools. Oakdale Elementary will eventually be decommissioned, and that property will be part of Tartan High School. We are also decommissioning Webster Elementary. So we're actually going from 9 elementaries to 6, because Skyview, remember, elementary will also cease to exist because it'll become a middle school. So ultimately, we'll have a phase 4 in this plan too, which will be remodeling of Tartan High School and then also North High School. And the design phase right now, or the exploratory phase for phase 4, is actually currently happening right now. Now, just so you know, the Eagle Point site is 20 acres, and we will eventually decommission that current building about the same time we do Maplewood Middle. And this is the sister school to the Eagle Point location. So we will use the same kind of configuration with the exception of color palettes, how it's arranged on the property, etc. So this actually, like when John Glenn and Maplewood were built, they were sister schools. These 2 also will be sister schools. And when we looked at building new, these were 2 of the largest tracts of land where we could build on so that we could get parent pickup, drop off at one location on the lot big enough. And then of course, our busing now. So that's kind of the overall plan. Right now, there will be some kind of a phase 5. Some of our current elementary schools, Comer and Weaver, are getting some, lights and brights and some furniture, secured entrances, etc. Also in this overall comp plan that we're doing.
How have they done the projections on the growth of students? How do they know where to go and what's going to happen if they get more students or less, or what's What's the plan with that?
Yeah, so ultimately what's going to happen here is the elementary schools and the middle schools will come online the fall of 2022. All right, so Carver Elementary, John Glenn, Skyview Middle, and the 2 brand new elementary schools will have students in them for the fall of 2022. So the boundary changes will also occur. We're working on that right now. Our schools, including this one, will have a core big enough so that we can expand it if we need to for growth. Right now, we do enrollment studies. We're having Hazel Reinhardt right now do some enrollment study, looking at the various development that's going on in all of our communities, North St. Paul, Maplewood, and Oakdale. So right now, the 2 middle schools would be outfitted for about $1,350 each, with the potential to make them a section bigger. And then also, that's what's happening with our elementary schools. Carver will be able to house 900 pre-K through 5th grade students. These 2 schools, Maplewood, the Maple Elementary site and the Eagle Point site, would be capable of housing 800 pre-K to 5th grade students.
You think they'd have to add on to the building, or there's just capability is there just to have the students? And they have to build more on the buildings?
Yeah, if that's the case, we have capacity though to build to grow into all of our elementary schools and our middle schools and our high schools. So we have enough capacity to at least last 5 years. If you look at our enrollment, we've kind of been decreasing as a school district over the past 10 years. Last year, we actually saw some growth, and we're flat right now. We're projecting to have the same number of students as we had last year. But for the first time in probably 8 years, we saw an uptick in our enrollment growth last year by about 100 students. Before that, we lost between 50 and 60 students per year.
Question.
Go ahead, Alan.
Can I go ahead?
Yes, go ahead, Alan.
Okay, my question is that, yes, you are referring to the 60s. In this neighborhood, when that school was built, there were no buses and all that stuff. Most of the complaints that you have received is regarding traffic on Lakewood. Did you get back to the people in the neighborhood and educate them about the kind of mitigation you have in place or what's supposed to be?
As far as, go ahead.
I was asking, who do you want to answer that, Alan?
Okay.
Who did you want to answer that?
Nothing.
Alan, who did you want to answer that?
Well,
I'm not
Karen,
adding
Commissioner, I
anything
can
to
just
that.
jump. I know Randy Anderson from the school district will have something to point out, but I do know that the school district did have correspondence and some of their mailings that of a radius that the city would do. So they did work to get the word out. And have correspondence in the neighborhood and the school district on the design of itself. I'll defer now to Anderson on any.
Yeah, your
specific
bandit is
recommendations
low.
they may have had.
Yeah, Mike, there's something wrong going on. You're glitching.
Yeah, you are. You're fading in and out, Michael.
Okay.
Yeah, the bandwidth is low.
All right. I'll give it one more shot. Can you hear? Is that coming across now?
Nope.
Nope. No. I'm trying to defer to Mr. Anderson anyway. I'm just, Paul, you'll need to take it.
Okay. Yeah, you're kind of glitching a little bit, but we can hear half of what you're saying or better.
Yeah, we're getting a sign that your bandwidth is low.
Yeah, it's low.
At least I am.
Go ahead, Randy. Then, have you had any have you had any talks with what's going on with Alan asked about kind of getting back to the people on the traffic and that?
We have no problem. It's interesting. No one from the surrounding residents, we put out a video and requested input if they'd like to. I had no one reach out to me. So I was kind of pleasantly surprised when, I saw the comments that were included in the report. So, yeah. Now, I had about 6 residents contact me after the Eagle Point presentation. So we did a Zoom meeting with those folks.
Oh, well. I mean, that's a designation. That's a designation. That's a school designation. There is not much you can do about it. I thought maybe maybe you can make some presentation to them to get them understand why and what you are doing. But if they didn't show up for the presentation, I don't think there is much you can do.
No, he did hit a few people. He said.
Yeah, we sent out a postcard, and to both of the school's residents that live around both campuses, obviously. So, but we're more than willing to, reach out to whomever we need to talk to. So.
What is the full cost of this project?
About 39 million total.
Oh, that's pretty reasonable in comparison to doing a remodel then, isn't it?
Yeah. That's everything. That's construction costs, soft costs. We're hoping less, of course.
Right. Yeah. That never works.
Well, we hope. You can only hope.
Did anybody else have any other questions for Randy?
Yeah, Randy, this is Lou Yang. Was there any community input sought during the conceptual or during the programming stages just to, have some kind of say on where the parking lot was going or where the fields were going, things like that?
No preliminary with the community. We did obviously have a user group planning committee that, that did the building, et cetera. And, we spent numerous meetings going over that, et cetera. So.
Did you have anything to
Ooh,
share?
this is Sean with Wold Architects. If you want kind of a detailed description of the process, the design process that we went through in the various groups that provided input, there are videos, pre-recorded videos on the district's website that kind of walk you through that.
And this is Sal from Wold Architects too. Sorry, I'm also getting the low bandwidth thing, so I turned off my camera to see if it would help. But one thing that obviously the pandemic has thrown a wrench in our plans, we actually had community meetings scheduled for the first week of April. I believe one was the 6th and one was the evening of the 8th, which is, I think, in person would have been preferable for sure. We kind of had to change course and go to those pre-recorded videos and then did our best to do marketing for them. I don't know if that quite answers your question, Mr. Yang, but.
Yeah, no, that does. Yeah, the current state, I'm sure.
Yeah,
does not
I think
help with
two-way
that,
communication is always better than one way. So that's where I think for the Eagle Point site, it seemed like people watched the video and we heard from them, and then we were able to set up kind of a private Zoom meetings. And
Sure.
we didn't hear anything from Maplewood, so any Maplewood residents, but.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Does there have to be any different design revisions now that with the things going on with that? Or is that just too far out that things by then will be okay? Or
In regards to COVID?
yes, with the design of
That's
the
a good
building.
question. I don't know, Randy, if you've thought of anything. I think having to take a really critical look at, I don't know, like surface.
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead, Randy. You go first.
Some of the things that we've put in place, at least now, is from a nursing standpoint, protective guards, etc. Right now, the district, ordered a bunch of protective guards for receptionist office areas. We've relocated in these 2 buildings and in Skyview, which is going on. Also, rearranged the nurse's office, so we have one isolation room. As far as making the rooms bigger or, expanding certain things because of COVID, only, like I said, the nursing room, we had, looked at doing that because ultimately, if that were to be the case, that will change the complexity of education as we know it for a long time to come, both in cost of administrating the education and cost of building the buildings for education. So we're hoping eventually, like some of these flus that we've had, it eventually will slow down and dissipate, and hopefully we'll be back to as normal as we can be.
Is there an auditorium in there too?
Say that one more time.
Is there an auditorium in the building?
No. No.
A question.
Go ahead, Alan.
Well, the chair just asked if there is auditorium in the building. You said no. I'm just wondering, how does the design, internet design of this new school building will provide for contraction or expansion of students that is going to be impacted by technology or situation like COVID, because there might be reduction in the students attending schools. I think you have some, classrooms, I think you have some plan in place for that. So things like a common event place, would that be something that is going to be on top of your priority in some of these new designs?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I would say in a formal auditorium would be pretty unusual at the K-5 level. Usually most elementary schools do their gatherings in either the media center, cafeteria, or gymnasium. So there are kind of provisions for different scale events or venues in those larger gathering spaces. In terms of future expandability, the building has been master planned for the ability to add another section or two of each grade level onto the building. So being master planned for some of that expansion, and some of the core spaces are being planned to hold that right now. So we haven't really gotten into the floor plan, as that's not part of our submission to the city, but they're really in kind of two grade level learning communities, and there's 2 opportunity areas to add on to for that future expansion.
Anything you want to say, or any questions? Deshar, did you have everything?
I gave a pretty big one last time, but I want to just say a few things. We're moving forward with our graduation planning. As you know, we're doing a virtual graduation.
We lost her.
No, Chair.
That was Randy live streaming the board meeting in the background.
Yeah.
The school board meeting is at the same time tonight. That's why some of us weren't at the first meeting. So.
Oh, okay. The board meeting is going on. Okay.
Yes.
Deshar, did you want to? You're muted if you wanted to say anything. Deshar, did you want to say anything?
No, I still didn't get a clear picture. That I heard the neighbors were all complaining about parking as well as traffic on the street that the buses are going to go on. But the city engineer says we are going to be fine. Are the residents there notified and walk through that process, or that is yet to go?
Chair and Commission. So, in terms of that, the engineer reviewed this project and deemed that this street is sufficient and can sustain bus traffic. We don't provide notice of that specific determination unless they're looking at the reports and staying up with this process. When the city gets to the point of reconstruction somewhere within this next 10-year time period, the residents will be involved with that process on its own trajectory.
You're still muted, Deshar, if you're saying
so
something.
Have we at all established when that road is going to be reconstructed? I heard earlier that they want to make sure it happens after the school is up, but is there a timeline? Like, is it the following year or 5 years down the road? How long is it going to be?
Chair and Commission, it's in the 5 to 10 year period. This road was actually up for reconstruction in 2007. And the neighborhood asked for it not to be reconstructed. And so that's where it kind of got pushed out then from other city projects. And now it is deemed, it's, you know, the engineer has a rating of the road and it does need to be reconstructed, but there are other roads that need attention first. And so it's in that, the 10-year plan, but it's not within 5 years at this point.
Ooh, okay.
But, so that's something that the city council, when they lay out their capital improvement plans and street projects, that's what they make those determinations on when streets are going to be reconstructed or not.
Okay.
By a category number of need. John, did you have any questions, John? You still there, John? I think all the questions are answered. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Because open it up to public.
So, Chair and Commission, Mr. Chair, I know we have callers that I'm assuming they're here for the public hearing. So,
okay,
if you're opening the public hearing, I can help you facilitate that. Is that where we're at?
Yes, yeah, I think everybody's at their questions now. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So, with the two callers, I'm going to do it by naming their last 4 digits of their phone number, and I'll unmute them and give them the opportunity to speak. So, the first person that would be up, and we'd ask that you state your name and address for the record. Their phone number ends in 9171. So is there someone at the phone number 9171 that has any comments for the Planning Commission tonight?
You.
Yeah, no.
You have to take it off mute.
I don't know.
That you are off mute. We can hear you if you have any comments.
Okay, no, we do not.
Okay. So I will move to the phone number 5689. You are now unmuted. You would have the ability to provide comments to the Planning Commission.
Yes, my name is Kathleen Johnson, and I live on Lakewood Drive. I do have a concern about the levees and the improvements that we've made to Maplewood, and I'm sorry if you've already covered this, but it seems to me as though we have put some levees and some money into this area. I'm disappointed that we're going ahead in this time, in this economic time with the COVID crisis and such, talking about spending this much money in this area. So my question is this something that we need to do at this time?
Randy, did you want to speak on that? Because I think you're...
Yeah, these are funds that have already been approved. Taxpayers have been assessed already in their tax statements. As a matter of fact, one of the things, Maplewood Middle School has been one of the buildings that we really have not done much deferred maintenance on in the last 20 to 30 years. So it made it an easy choice because there's a lot of abatement that would need to be taken out and so forth. So if we remodeled the Maplewood Middle School. So ultimately, in consolidation down to 2 middle schools, it made sense to close the Maplewood location and build a brand new elementary school where we could have play facilities, the acreage necessary to divert, parking congestion between drop-offs and pickups of parents, and then also the busing. So that's why we're kind of right now we're moving forward with the projects. So yeah, and actually right now with our Carver and John Glenn, there's been no confirmed cases of COVID-19 at all.
Okay.
No.
May I ask one more question?
Go ahead.
Is there any possibility of re-looking at where you have the parking in the playground being so close to homes? Is there any chance you could either move that more to the east, or you could change where you have the school location and the parking and put the parking between the school and the street? I just don't want to be looking in the busing parking in the kids' playground.
Randy, do you want to answer that too, I guess?
There's only a few things with the school. You have to continue to have Maplewood Middle School, obviously, go on during the construction of the of the new elementary school. So again, it basically limits options. Because of that, we're having the same situation over at the Eagle Point location also. So we're trying to keep it as minimal impact to our residents around there as possible. And considering, right now too, there's already a school building there. And, so people, I guess, are used to the goings on that occur during a typical school day. Keep in mind again too that this will be a middle school, won't have a swimming pool. There'll be less activity here than probably what's going on, at Maplewood Middle School currently.
I think too, there's some of the reasoning is because of some of the setbacks too. But you can't have the structure, it has to be put in a certain location too, right? With some of the setbacks.
Yeah, and so we have to take into consideration, watershed district, and when we build new schools now, we have to bring them up, and so we need rain gardens, we need water storage, etc. So a lot of times, we're working with those entities as well as the city of Maplewood, to make sure the location covers all those types of things. So Sal, I don't know if you have some thoughts, or Sean?
I think you hit most of them. I think, it maybe is difficult to imagine how constraining, building with the existing building remaining operational will be, but we really had to site the building in a way that it can be, the new building in a way that it can be constructed safely, allow current middle school operations to happen, which really dictates that where the current building is really our opportunity for parking or green space, right? We can't build the building on top of the footprint of the building. So that was a kind of a major constraint. And then knowing that we wanted the northern curb cut there to continue to be the car traffic, to bring cars on site. I think one major improvement will be the additional stacking space. So cars can turn onto the site, and then they've got quite a meandering path to get to that main entry, which means all those cars waiting, especially in the afternoon for pickup or drop off, can do more of that waiting on site. And trying to keep the bus traffic, which is really only 2 times a day. I don't know, Randy, what is it, a 10, 15-minute window in which the buses are coming and going?
And probably 9 buses in the morning, 9 buses in the afternoon, versus probably 100 to 150 parent drop-offs and pickups every morning and afternoon.
Right, so we're trying to keep that off Lakewood, which is obviously the lower traffic street. So that was some of the logic. So it's a little bit of existing constraints, and then trying to keep the major traffic off the major road, and the minor traffic, which is these 9 buses twice a day for a little bit on the side road. I'm not entirely sure that answers your question, but.
Well, thank you. I guess what I was looking at was switching the location from the bus parking and playground to where the new elementary school would go, swapping those 2 items, if that would be a consideration.
You mean swapping out the bus parking and the regular parking?
No, I'm sorry. I'm not being clear. The bus parking, the playground projected, if you put them on the site where you're planning to put the elementary school and put the elementary school. So the bus parking is in the middle of where you have, right where you have the building plan now.
I see what you're saying. So part of what we're trying to do is we're actually working pretty hard to keep parent drop-off. I got my low bandwidth thing. I'm gonna turn my video off and see if that helps. Keep parent drop-off quite separate from from bus drop-off. So having them on opposite sides of the building is actually best practice, because at the beginning and the end of the day, that helps disperse some of the traffic. And then some of the logic, again, since you guys don't see the inside of the building, it's probably easy to gloss over this, but we're trying to get parents to be able to drop students off at the front door. So that's why they're on the north side. And then the bus entry, there's sets of doors into that same building entrance on the opposite side. So trying to create some equity, so students, whether you get dropped off by mom or dad or grandma, or if you ride the bus, that you enter the building kind of into the same space. So that's actually part of what's driving the floor plan too. So the classroom towers are the kind of the 2 wings off to the side, and right where those meet in kind of a T or a Y formation, those are the main entrance and the bus entrance. So that's why they're on opposite sides of the building.
Okay, thank you.
Was there anybody else, Michael?
So, Chair and Commissioner, we do not have any other callers that appear to be seeking comment for the Planning Commission during the public hearing.
Okay, so then I will be closing the public hearing then. I guess we can need a motion then. Is there any last questions? If not, Deshar, would you like to make a motion? You're always good at those.
Sure. I'd like to make a motion to approve a resolution for a conditional use permit for a new elementary school to be constructed at 2410 Holloway Avenue East.
Second.
A motion by Deshar, second by Alan. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? No nays, all ayes. Passed. Now, this is just a recommendation by us. This will go before the city council on
Chair and Commission, June 8th is our targeted date.
June 8th. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Randy.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
Have a good evening.
Have a good evening. Have a good rest of your meeting.
Yep. Stay safe.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.
Okay, we are on number 2, Maple Ridge Convenience Store, 2501 Waper Avenue, a conditional use permit resolution. Staff?
Thank you, Chair and Commission. I'm going to share my screen here again so we can briefly walk through the project here. As the Chair mentioned, we're looking at 2501 White Bear Avenue. This is the Maple Ridge Shopping Center. Was the former home of Rainbow Foods that closed a handful of years ago. The proposal before you tonight is a new convenience store and also improved access drives from White Bear Avenue and Service Avenue. The convenience store, as proposed, would be 4,200 square feet in size, and it would be owned and operated by a new grocery tenant that would occupy the former Rainbow Food site or building. To move forward, the applicant needs approval of a conditional use permit for a planned unit development and a motor fuel station, and also design review and a comprehensive sign plan. The Planning Commission tonight is looking at the CUP aspect and holding a public hearing. Earlier this evening, the CDRB looked at the design review and comprehensive sign plan. The conditional use permits, as I mentioned, required for the PUD and motor fuel station. A plan unit development allows for flexibility from zoning standards. To qualify for a plan unit development, you need 2 or more principal uses on site, with the multi-tenant shopping center, the grocery store building, and then the proposed convenience store. Those would be 3 principal uses, so the code does qualify the site for plan unit development. The flexibility that the applicant is looking for is from the front yard setback. Typically from White Bear Avenue, a building would be required to be set back 30 feet, and the applicant is requesting just under 20 feet. Their rationales detailed in the staff report and their project narrative that we can get into more detail if there's questions of that after this presentation. And then the second item they're looking for flexibility on is the parking minimums. Code for retail requires 1 space for every 200 square feet of retail space. And they're looking for a ratio of 1 parking space for every 250 square feet. This would leave the site 93 spaces, I believe it's 92 spaces short of code requirements if we used our ratio. There was a project approved here, actually, where there's going to be 2 additional buildings built on the east side of the site that requested a similar parking reduction that ultimately was approved by the city. Obviously, those buildings were never built, but with the similar request in terms of parking coming before you tonight, staff is comfortable with these flexibility requests as proposed with the PUD. The second item in the conditional use permit is for a motor fuel station. As part of the requirements to grant a CUP for motor fuel stations, that must be set back at least 350 feet from residential property. You can see directly to the west here, if you look at the cursor, there is residential property west of this overall site, but the convenience store and fuel station area itself is more than 500 feet away from the residential area, so it does qualify for the conditional use permit. This site plan is not great, but we can pull it up if we have specific questions after the presentation, a crisper graphic. But the convenience store itself is to be located on the east side of the site. The existing access that is just to the north here would be closed on the site and shifted to the south. And it would be a full left turn, right turn access, and actually with a stoplight being installed, and this new access drive would line up with the access drive drives across the street of White Bear. So it creates a safer, more aligned intersection in terms of traffic conditions. And the applicant has been working with Ramsey County on developing this intersection and having a stoplight ultimately installed. In addition to the improvements to White Bear Avenue access, the applicant is reducing the number of access points on Jarvis Avenue from 3 current access drives to 2. One access drive would actually align with the back of the grocery store building and service the building for deliveries. And then the second access would align with the front of the grocery store building, allowing full right turn, left turn access both into the site and out on the Jarvis Avenue. And also, the applicant has been working with the Maplewood city engineer to develop the plans for Jarvis Avenue. The elevation itself for the convenience store would be 18 feet in height. Parapet in the middle rises up to 23 feet. The field canopy would be 19.5 feet in height, and the 2 structures, the store and field canopy, would be constructed with 2 different colors of brick and limestone panels. As part of the CDRBs reviewed earlier tonight, they did request that the applicant provide additional architectural elements to not just the east elevation, but also taking a look at the north and south elevations of the building and adding brick to the columns of the field canopies that would match the main structure. So a few follow-up items that the applicant has been directed to look into by the CDRB. In terms of landscaping and lighting, 7 trees would be removed during the development of this project. 6 would be in the location of the convenience store, and 1 tree at the location of the new access drive on Jarvis. The applicant is proposing 4 new trees to be planted on the site, and numerous shrubs and perennials would be installed near the White Bear Avenue access in this area and then around the convenience store site itself. The applicant is required to submit a revised photometric plan that meets city requirements. And then just very quickly, shopping centers with 5 or more tenants require a comprehensive sign plan. So the site already has a comprehensive sign plan, and we just, the city needs to amend it or approve amendment of it in order to incorporate new proposed signage for both the convenience store and the grocery store. To highlight the process, much like the project we just reviewed for the school district, neighboring properties were sent both neighborhood surveys and public hearing notices for property owners within 500 feet of this site. That was 18 properties fall within that radius. We received 1 response. Now you will note in your staff report, we did not receive any responses at the time of publishing your report. But in the last week, we did receive 1 additional letter, or 1 letter, and that letter was it is supportive and recommends approval of the project. That letter will be included with our staff report to the City Council. Again, much like the last project, a form was posted to the city's project website to encourage additional avenues for people to provide comments on this project. A similar presentation to the one you just heard was also posted to the city's website and YouTube channels for interested parties to review the project before tonight's meeting. And you are just about to hold a public hearing again on this project tonight during the Planning Commission meeting. And with that said, staff is recommending approval of the conditional use permit that's included, conditional use permit resolution for a planned unit development and motor fuel station that's included as attachment 1 in your staff report that begins on page 40 of 66. So I know we have representatives from the applicant on the call tonight, and staff can also stand for any questions. So with that, I hand it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Like with the cutting across White Bear Avenue, it looks like it crosses completely across. What is on the other side there? What does that connect up with?
Sure, Mr. Chair and Commission, on the other, directly, the new drive would align with existing shared drive that's Discount Tire to the north, and then it's a multi-tenant commercial building to the south. A liquor store is a notable tenant there, but there are a handful of other tenants in that building. So care was taken into making sure that the new drive would align with the existing drive on the east side of White Bear to work with creating a safer intersection for all three properties then.
So they're gonna all have to be closed off and come out of that there then at the light, right?
Say that once again, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
They're all gonna be closed off, their entrances onto White Bear, and they'll all have to be at this intersection then, right? So we're eliminating it so they're all safe, or they're gonna still be existing?
Mr. Chair and Commission, the only access that's being closed is actually on the Maple Ridge Shopping Center. Their existing access will be closed, but then the shifting itself, there is no proposed closure on the east side. It's just aligning with existing drives.
Okay. Because it would be safer if they all could come out of there, because people do make, left turns when they come across that way and cross over where they're not supposed to.
Yep, Chair, and that's Chair and Commission. From the city's perspective, that's kind of been our driving force in working with the county and supporting the proposed intersections, because even if we know the intersection of the access drives today are currently signed as no left turn, but we know that they occur, and so making a signalized intersection will make it safer for travelers.
Right. Now, is this front of this building? Does that doesn't line up with anything? Even the coffee shop there, is that Starbucks or whatever that coffee shop? That's even this building's much further to White Bear than that building is too, isn't it?
Chair and Commission, that's correct. The proposed building would be closer to White Bear than any existing structure on the site.
Does that create any visual effects wrong, or is that?
Chair and Commission, as we talked about in the design board earlier this evening, the city's main concern is just the design of the building itself. We're not concerned with how the buildings line up with each other. We don't feel that that's an architectural concern. Just making sure that it's well designed and constructed building is our driving force.
Okay. And then the parking issue, they're not going to have a lot of people there at one time anyhow. Everybody comes and goes, right? Is that?
Chair and Commission, yeah, when we reviewed the project for two buildings a handful of years ago, that was the city's perspective, is that each of the businesses in the multi-tenant building, and when you pair it with the grocery and convenience store, that there's going to be different peaks for each of those uses, and so we do see that as an opportunity for shared parking. So we're more efficiently utilizing the sites without expanding parking. And utilizing what's there. So we don't see a potential parking crunch. And if you had a chance to look through the applicant's narrative, and they can speak more to it, but they have experience at owning retail and commercial properties beyond Maplewood, and they have more experience in knowing what their preferred ratios are, and that's the number that they're comfortable with.
Yeah, I would think 20 cars at one time is the max they'd ever have at a station like that, I would think.
Sure.
Do we know what it is, or is that a secret?
I can, as far as any potential tenants, let the applicant speak to that, but we do know it's a convenience store that's attached with a grocer that would own and operate it.
You cut it out. We couldn't quite hear what you were saying. You just know it's a convenience store, basically, right?
Chair and Commission, I would, as far as any potential specific tenants, would direct the question to the applicant. What we know is that it's a convenience store that would be owned and operated by a grocery.
By a who?
A grocery store.
Okay.
We just don't, if you're looking for specific information on the tenants, I would direct you to the applicant.
Okay. Did anybody have any questions for staff?
No. Yeah, I was just wondering,
Go ahead, Alan, what?
I was just wondering, is this, was it conditional for the grocery store to have the convenience store before the grocery store can be occupied from the city perspective?
To get approved, no. The applicant might have a different perspective, but a convenience store gas station could be built on the site regardless of what happens at the grocery store building.
Okay, if it is no, it was asking for the addition of motor fuel. I was just wondering if that was a condition for the grocery store to be occupied.
Sure. Again, I think this question, the last question, probably more geared towards the applicant, but from the city's perspective, no, it's not a condition that the city would hold. Yeah.
They're irrelevant, I think. Yeah, that's nothing connected. Brittany, did you want to jump in now, or? You're still muted. There.
Hello?
Yep, now we can hear you.
Hi there. Sorry, can you repeat the question? You're wondering if it's a condition of the other tenant?
He wanted to know if the grocery store had anything to do with your opening, which it doesn't. I mean, they're completely different structures. I think that's kind of what it was.
Yeah, I mean, ideally they prefer to have the convenience store as well. But like you mentioned, it's not connected, but typically it's something that they would have.
Are you allowed to say what the convenience store is, the name, or is that a secret?
Not at this time.
Okay. Now they've done enough surveys to know that there's a need for that there, right, too? Okay. Did anybody have any other questions?
Yep.
Done.
It looks like nobody has any questions, huh?
Nope.
When is the tentative start of this?
Parent Commission, the applicant has suggested or indicated that they would be looking as soon as a late summer start.
Okay. And everybody's okay with the parking?
Nice.
Everybody's okay with the parking? Doesn't seem to be a problem, I don't think, because they got all that other place.
I don't think there's an issue. This similar proposal, as Michael had said earlier, was brought up to the Planning Commission and it was approved, and there was more than one building that was going to be erected right up on White Bear Avenue. And historically, that there aren't that many parking spaces occupied even when Rainbow was there and other tenants close by. So I don't think parking is going to be an issue. It's better if we have a lower density of parking because it's a lot of asphalt there sitting there doing nothing.
Where does the drainage and everything go for this? The runoff and that? How are they capturing that, or what's happening with the water retention?
Yeah, the Commission, the applicant is required to meet city stormwater requirements for both small site disturbance, so any new disturbance to the site, they'll be capturing on site.
Okay. I think we're all good.
Got to open it up.
Yep. Is there anybody that would like to speak on this then?
Chair and Commission, the public hearing, it does not appear that we have any additional callers looking to speak tonight.
Not a one, huh?
Not a one.
Okay. If there's nobody out there and nobody's coming in, I close the public hearing then. Okay, we need a motion. You got any motion takers out there? How about you, Lou?
I'll make the motion. Motion to approve a resolution for a conditional use permit for planned unit development and a motor vehicle or motor fuel station at 2501 White Bear Avenue.
There's been a motion by Lou and second by Deshar.
Yep.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? All ayes. Okay, passed. This is just a recommendation. This will go before the city in June
8th.
June 8th. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Brittany. Okay, any new business? Sale of city-owned property at 2501 London Lane.
Chair and Commission, Community Development Director Jeff Thompson is going to present this item to you today. Hand over.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. Can you hear me okay?
Beautiful.
Okay. So, as you may know, the city actually owns 6-acre parcel down in South Maplewood. It's located at Mondon Lane and Lower Afton Road. It's the former site of a city-owned fire station that was decommissioned, and over the past number of years has just been leased out to some tenants for storage. As the city has marketed the site for sale, as the city has not identified another use that the city has for the land. Just a couple months ago, the council approved a purchase agreement with INH Properties. They are the developer, the same developer that's developing the Trails Edge Apartments project next to Costco. And so we have an agreement with them for them to purchase the property, and they are proposing to construct a multifamily apartment project on that site, about 140 units. And ultimately, the land use applications for that will come before you for your kind of your standard review, the public hearing, and your recommendation to the council. But there is a provision in the statute, the state statute, that says anytime public land is disposed of, so if it's sold for another non-public use, it requires review by the Planning Commission to ensure that the sale of the land is consistent with our comprehensive plan. So this property is guided in our new comp plan, the 2040 plan for high density residential, and the developer is anticipating to build, as I said, a multifamily project which would be consistent with that. So that statute provision is actually the same section on which you review the capital improvement plan every year, the city's 5-year investment in its capital assets. So a fairly straightforward process. We've included a resolution in your packet for adoption, just finding that the sale of the land would be consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. And as I noted, the development application will come before you once the developer has submitted that for the city's review. So with that, Chair, I'm happy to answer any questions.
How many acres is that?
Sorry?
How many acres?
It's just under 6, about 5.9 acres.
And what is around that? Is there apartments behind it or housing, or what is it? What is in that area? I know I've seen it.
So directly to the west is a multifamily condo building. And then to the south, I believe it is single family homes. So yeah, to the south and east is single family homes. And then north of it is the county correctional facility.
Mm-hmm. What was that we were having discussion with that property before? You remember that, Mike, about them talking about something going on that property, and they were concerned about the water or something there, the park, little pond or something. Do you remember that?
I couldn't hear the question.
I was asking Mike that we had one time we had somebody was talking about doing something there, and there people were concerned about the pond and the wildlife or something on that property, wasn't it? Or was that somewhere else?
Chair and Commission, so west of the fire station site, there's 2 or 3 more parcels of property that are undeveloped, completely undeveloped, and they're heavily wooded in some very low areas. So there's some condominiums west of the fire station site. I have some residents that had previously expressed concerns about development north of them. That's not what Mr. Thompson here is referring to. So when the fire station itself is completely east of those condominiums, and if you've had a chance to look at the site, it's not a wooded site by any means. It's a developed fire station site. So there's environmental concerns fairly minimal for this site in specific, and this proposed project would not impact the wooded areas and low areas to the west.
Okay, that was another property we were talking about near there. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Did anybody have any questions? It seems like what was the zoning prior to this? Was it multi-development prior to this, or Jeff?
I believe it was the land use consistent with the fire station, so institutional, I'm guessing, consistent with the city's land use. It was changed in the most recent update.
Okay. Did anybody have any questions? No. Seeing none from John, Alan, Kishar, Lou.
No, I don't have any questions.
First time for everything. Okay, then, we need to make a resolution on this then. Does somebody want to read that?
Sure, I'll make a motion. Motion to approve the attached resolution finding that the sale of publicly owned at 2501 London Lane East is consistent with the city's 2040 comprehensive plan.
There's been a motion by Deshar, second by
Second.
John. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Hearing all ayes, it's passed. There was no public thing on that, right? Because just a resolution, right?
We already published.
Nope.
There's no unfinished business, right? Any visitors
Correct, Chair.
presentation?
Yep.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry. Thanks.
Okay, we are down to commissioners' presentations, May 11th, City Council meeting, Maplewood Senior Living, 1818 Jarvis Court East.
Chair and Commissioner, I don't believe we had any commissioners attend that virtual meeting. Again, with the pandemic issues, we're streamlining who's on those city council calls just to make it somewhat efficient for the ones participating. But that council did review that project and did ultimately approve the project, so that is able to move forward. It does need Met Council approval, and so the city has submitted that to the Met Council for its review. But we do not anticipate any issues with receiving approval from the Metropolitan Council.
They're going to tentatively start that in July, I heard, wasn't it?
I'm sorry, one more time, Paul?
I think they tentatively just said they're going to start that in July, right?
Chair and Commission, I know they had an aggressive timeline. Before we can do anything, we do need the Met Council approval. And so we're hoping to get that to meet their timelines.
Okay. Any presentations, staff presentations?
Chair and Commission, I have nothing further for you tonight. Otherwise, just thanking you again for round 2 on working with us on the Zoom call. I think we're holding pretty effective meetings still, so I appreciate everyone's participation and working with us to get these projects reviewed.
Well,
Yeah, I think it works. What's that, Alan?
To be responsible for some of these.
Say that again?
The chair have to be responsible for some of these, for this second round.
Yeah.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah, they've been going good, I think, too, yeah. That way I don't have to sit next to Alan either. That's really nice.
Yeah.
Okay, I make a motion, we adjourn. Everybody stay healthy and safe.
Yep, same there. Be safe.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks.